So now I've been trying to get the midwives to either get a room available when the waters break and the mother feels ready to give birth. If she wants to be sure that she has experts on hand to deal with any malfunction of her system, she goes to the hospital or to the birthing center. She doesn't clock in or meet anybody else. She arrives in a privileged state. She is about to give birth. She enters the birthing room, which is comfortably furnished like a living room or a bedroom. She crouches, and there's a camera there, unobtrusively placed. And in a central place there's a midwife monitoring all the rooms. And you can have a separate midwife for each room if you wish. And then the mother will go into the birthing process. Any time taken over a sort of arbitrary period of 10, 20 minutes, half an hour, she's encouraged then, or her birthing coach, her husband, or whoever she has chosen to be with her for mutual support, is instructed to get her to start the strenuous exercise. And she will beat the pillows or whatever and give birth without any distress. Immediate medical attention will be on hand then if anything is going to go wrong, which it rarely does. All the husband or the midwife has to do is just quietly speak into the microphone, "We need help now." And in 2 seconds the door will burst open, the trolley will be there, and the woman will be safely onto the operating table for a cesarean or whatever procedure has been deemed necessary. Now this is of course for the average birth. It does not mean that somebody who has a pathological deformity or some kind of situation that has been detected in early pregnancy should not have a very carefully monitored birth. But they're very few and far between. You'll find that most cesareans are carried out in places with high insurance. In places, particularly in America, where there's virtually no insurance, very few cesareans are carried out. I'd like to talk now about a specific technique which is used in birthing. When my wife, who is heavily pregnant, started to have contractions, she just called to me and said, "The baby's on its way." So I said, "Oh, good, great," because, you know, waiting can be onerous sometimes. So I grabbed our birthing kit and put the waterproof sheet on the carpet, and she squatted over it, and birth looked imminent. I gave her about 10 minutes, and then we would have what turned out to be our daughter. And she looked up at me and she said, "Get the midwife." And I said, "Why? Why? We don't need the midwife. We'll save ourselves $3,000. We don't need it." "Get the midwife." "Oh, right," immediately. I mean, you do not argue with a birthing woman at all. So I rang the midwife. And as soon as the midwife arrived, who was a very warm, very loving and highly experienced midwife, everything stopped. Totally everything. The contractions, the opening of the cervix, all stopped. And I thought, this is very strange. I could have sworn that the baby's going to crown. Her head's going to come out any minute and we're going to have a birth. And I looked at my wife and I thought, uh-oh, she's in fight or flight. Aha. I looked at the midwife, and the midwife was Caucasian. And my wife isn't. She's of the Asian extraction with a great deal of Hawaiian upbringing, and to her, Caucasians are predators. It was they who caused the Hawaiians to lose their lands, to try and attempt to get them to work on the plantations, etc. And all of this woman had absolutely no connection with her predecessors in the kind of historical knowledge that my wife had. All Caucasians were predators. I was also a predator in her eyes. So I thought, how am I going to get her to discharge the adrenaline. Unfortunately, my intuition interceded. And I told her something that got her really angry. I got her steamingly angry. She was already very angry. And she threw a punch at me and then another one. And so I grabbed a cushion and pushed it at her. And she got what I was trying to do. My wife is a highly intelligent woman. Although at that time, the birthing process, I could see that she was under its thrall. That somehow she was in a very primitive state. Very primitive. So she hammered on this pillow for about 20 minutes. Very strenuous exercise. And of course she discharged the adrenaline. It was very, very simple. And towards the end, I told her something I never wanted to tell her. Oh no, sorry. I got her angry with that. At the end, she told me something which she never wanted to tell me. And I dissolved into tears. No longer an authoritative, dominant arsehole. Here I was, a total tear-drenched supplicant, no danger to anybody. So her last barrier had gone, and she immediately got up into the crouch. And the birthing process then went through its natural and totally painless experience for her. The midwife came back in, 2 friends arrived, everything was fine. And my second daughter, the same thing happened. My wife went straight into beating the pillows, discharging the adrenaline, and she reached down with the midwife's agreement and caught her own daughter. And it was the most magical moment to see her reach down and put her hands lovingly round her daughter, and as she came out of the womb, she pulled her up and onto her breast, where she lay quite contentedly, totally relaxed, absolutely relaxed. So for those people that advocate putting the baby into a bath to relax it, not necessary. The baby is totally relaxed as long as the mother hasn't had a stressful and strenuous 36 hours of, being supported by people, giving epidurals, waiting, being in the bath. If nature had wanted us to give birth in a bath, it would have ensured the baby is born in the caul and the water is not broken yet. You break the water bag after the baby is born. You don't need to do that. There are millions of women all over the world giving birth painlessly. Now, I know it's easy for a man to say this, and this information has been on the internet for years. And women say, oh, you're a man, you wouldn't know anything about that. I say, well, if you were a woman surgeon and you made a major discovery about the prostate, how would you feel if people said to you, well, you don't have a prostate or nothing resembling one, how can you possibly do any research on it? That's absolute nonsense. Sometimes major breakthroughs are made by relatively inexperienced people observing with a keen eye and recording the results. I've received countless emails from all over the world from women who, just by happenstance, happened to be either by themselves or with one person when they gave birth. And it's usually measured in minutes, not hours, not days. It's very difficult. But I feel that people who use this technique should be aware that it's not necessary to put... Now, if you have an infant on its mother's breast screaming and in shock and rigid, well, that may be so, but I would prefer to work on the mother. Put the mother in the bath, a warm bath, so that she becomes relaxed, because infants' attitudes and behaviors are the reflection of the holder's patterns. If the mother is relaxed and at ease, the baby will be relaxed. If she's at all tense, the infant will pick up the fight or flight response that the mother is demonstrating and say, whoops, danger's here. my sole protector from predators, is in a fight or flight reaction. I better go in fight or flight reaction. And often infants will go silent, totally silent. It's like a throwback to the veldt. They're on this open plain, the mother has put the infant in its carry cot or whatever, and it starts crying immediately, and then, oh, mother's not around, she hasn't come in the first 5 minutes, silence, or the hyena will hear your cries and come and eat you. This is why so many techniques used to persuade an infant to sleep don't really work in the long run. The infant goes into shock and stays very silent, and the mother comes back into the room after 10-15 minutes and thinks, oh, it works, my infant has gone to sleep. No, it hasn't worked at all. Your infant has gone into panic mode and shut down and has gone totally silent because it's terrified of the hyena on the veldt.